Hi, and welcome to Happy Fisherman Adventures.
I hope, I dream, I wish to catch a big fish, and I do it when I can. I'm a happy fisherman, and I do it when I can. I'm a happy fisherman.
In today's episode, we're going to see two recent adventures. One is TB going with Jerry to the old channel in Portarlington, and they were smashing garfish. And the second one is me doing a solo session on my little boat. Well, actually, it wasn't solo. I was with Chiquita. The two of us went and we on King George biting.
Well, me and Jerry actually managed to get garfish at Old Channel. So 11 meters of water. We were trying for King George, we were trying for pinkies and that. And it was actually hard work. On the camera, after I seen there was heaps of yakas, heaps of other fish. There was even trevally and that underneath. But we were smashed by little pinkies. So yeah, it wasn't fun to start with because it was just catch and release. But then I put a garfish rod just in case. I couldn't see him because the water was dirty. I put a garfish rod at the back, and before you realize, I got a nibble. And then we said, you know what, take the snapper gear out, and we got into garfish. Garfish, one of our favorite to eat. And Mima's got a lot of different techniques to catch them. We went actually with Sav and Mima as well. So how did you find them?
Well, tricky as always, but they really know how to test your patience. So,
well, because the water was running, you're gonna see in the actual videos, I put a sinker on.
Yeah, we had.
So we don't use float. We don't use float. I put a sinker on, and basically I had my normal bride, and then when I hooked up the leader, I had a sinker, it acted as a downrigger. When I dropped it, it was about half a meter to a meter. That's the column you have to fish. So you don't go any deeper for garfish in Port Phillip Bay at the moment. And then the leader was about a meter, and I just put that down, and most of the time they were catching themselves.
Yeah. Well, even when we went with Sev, we started with a split shot sinker, but while the water was calm and not moving, but once it started running, we had to attach
a sinker.
Yeah,
because what happens is, even if you use float, you put it on, the current takes it, the float goes away, the line gets obviously tied, and all it does, it picks up your bait and puts it on the surface. They don't really bite on the surface. They about half a meter, as I say, to a meter under the surface.
Yeah.
So actually, Jerry had a bit of issue to catch him, and then he got the trick and he started catching him. The thing was, I even tricked him on one stage. I had a little soft plastic just to give him a second chance, but we dipped that soft plastic in oil, tuna oil.
Yep.
And then we put a piece of pilchard or piece of tuna on it, put it on, they will pinch the tuna, but they were still coming back for the soft plastic. So let's watch the first video with Jerry. It is a weekend, Jerry came over, and yes, we decided to go fishing. So today we were on our way to the Old Channel. It is overcast, but the wind was right down, so the water was glass. It was really amazing to be out there. Our mission was to try and get some squid first, so as we got out of Clifton Springs boat ramp, on the right you got that broken pier, and normally that's where we actually try and get squid, and we're normally successful, but today unfortunately all we got is a single squid, so just one. The funny thing is that we got that one straight away, so we were happy and we were thinking, yes, we are on. But obviously that was false alarm, so we decided to go to the Old Channel. As we got there, we saw some really nice arches. So again, we were thinking, wow, there would be snapper 100% here. but unfortunately that wasn't the case. Also, as you can see, as we got there, it started to chop up a little bit. Anyway, we put the big rods out, I mixed up some burley, I put some burley in the water, and as we were waiting for the big rods to take off, we were playing with the small rods. So we actually tried for garfish, slimy mackerel, yakka, anything that's around. Before you realize, we had some garfish on. So the whole plan changed then and then. All we did, we started concentrating on garfish. I know a lot of people say garfish makes a really good bait, but I'll tell you one thing, they are brilliant to eat. They are actually awesome to eat. As far as the big rods, they were actually playing. So first we got some pinkies, then we had the yakka on a big hook, which is ridiculous. The hook was bigger than the fish. And then we got a banjo shark. So pretty quick we decided to move them and take them out of the way so we can concentrate on actually catching garfish. When we target garfish, we actually do not use float, especially where the water is moving. We actually just use a leader with a little split shot sinker. We put it in the water, let it drift a little bit, and then slowly wind it back. It's important to have your bait just about half a meter to a meter under the surface, because that's where the garfish feeds. And the other rig that I had, it was actually a plain paternoster rig. So I had a sinker and 2 hooks above. That one I put just on the back of the boat where the burley bucket was, and again I dropped it just a meter under the surface. And both of these rigs actually worked. If the tide starts to move quite hard, you must use a sinker. So what happened is basically on the rod that Jerry had, on a swivel which connected the main line to the leader, we put a little sinker, and that sinker acted just as a downrigger. So basically that was taking the rig under the surface about a meter. Other than that, if you don't use the sinker, your line will be floating in the air and basically on the surface, and the garfish won't touch it. The hooks we use are either the Gamakatsu Longshank 12s, or you can use any longshanks, but very small, as obviously the garfish has a small mouth. And we used a little slice of pilchard, or if you do have some tuna leftovers, just use a little cubes of tuna. They absolutely love tuna. And also if you have tuna scraps, use that for burley. Underneath, we had the underwater camera. On the floor, there was millions of yakkas. As you could see in that video, we stopped fishing for snapper. We didn't care about anything else once we knew that garfish is there. So we concentrate on garfish. 2 rigs that we use, it's one with a split shot and we left it running. Or I just dropped a paternoster rig behind the boat, and that was just hanging there with a sinker holding it just about a meter under the surface. Now, while it was calm, we got an odd fish there and there, but once it got choppy, we started getting him like crazy. So a little bit, to me, against all odds, because usually it works the other way around.
Well, I was very excited when you came back home.
Yeah, because it's our favorite fish to eat. So yeah, we called Ovi and Liliana, they came, they cooked, and we had a beautiful feast. So let's watch the next video. One thing that surprised me today is that the rougher it got out there and the choppier it got, the harder the garfish were biting. So we were getting them left, right and center. They were not big fish, but they were in good numbers. Underneath the surface, on my camera, I've seen millions of them. Here is a closer look to Jerry's rig. So a sinker that was acting as a downrigger, and we had about a meter of leader. Important was to have small hooks and small bait. Both tuna and pilchard are quite soft bait, and it does fall off very easy. So you'll see later on, I came up with another idea. Here when I drop the camera, you can see how many garfish was just about a meter under the surface. There was millions of them. But at the bottom, we had tons of yuccas. If we would target gummy shark later on or snapper, we would actually concentrate to get some yuccas because they make a great bait. But today, we had better things to do. Garfish was our priority, and as I say, it's one of my favorite fish. As I mentioned before, because tuna and pilchard make a really soft bite and we lose them too easy, I had to come up with another idea. So what I did, I cut up a small piece from a soft plastic, I put it on the hook, then I dip them in my burley bucket which was full of tuna oil, and then I would add a small piece of pilchard. Once they come and hit that pilchard, they take it off, they would still come back for the soft plastic. And because the soft plastic, it's not easy to take off, they will try harder, and most of the time, the harder they try, they would hook themselves up. As this method worked really good, I told Jerry to grab a piece of plastic, put it on his hook, and then dip it in the actual tuna oil. In no time, Jerry was catching them like no tomorrow. In next shot, you're going to see that if you drop your rig too low, so a couple meters or 3 meters under the boat, you're gonna get slimy mackerel or yucca. 99% of the time it would be slimy mackerel because that's what they feed, that's the column of water where they feed. And then if you drop it on the floor, just a meter off the floor, you're most likely gonna get a yucca. If you target garfish in Port Phillip Bay, normally half a meter to a meter under the surface. Doesn't matter the depth of the water, you can be in 2 meters or 10 meters of water, they feed just under the surface. All I can say, sometimes you need to think out of the box, and the trick that having a backup soft plastic that you dip in some tuna oil, it actually works, so give it a try.
Well, the next video, it was my solo session. Tibi had to go to work and it was a beautiful day on Tuesday, so I decided I'll pack up the boat, pack up Chiquita, and off we go. And that's what we did. It was a bit rough at first, but I still enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. When I caught the first King George whiting on a solo session, I was proud of myself.
It wasn't rough, you can't say it was rough. It was a bit choppy and then it went down, the whole thing. But nothing too scary, nothing too risky. So the good part about it is Mima went to Leopold, couldn't find fish. The sound on this boat is shocking, so she couldn't rely on that. And then you came back to Kerr Lewis in about 4.5 meters of water.
I did, and I had quite a few phone calls from Tibi wanting to know, how are you going? How are you doing? I think he was scared about the boat, that I would damage it or something.
No, but at that time was still 0 fish.
Oh, I think I had one.
No, after you had one.
Okay. After I had one. Yeah, well, yes, but the first time you called me, I had 0. That's right.
And then you had actually couple and end up with nearly a dozen. And yeah, some of them were actually really good fish. So let's watch the first solo adventure. Well, what can I say? First solo session for Mima. She grabbed little Chiquita, she grabbed her little boat, and off they go. They were on the way to Leopold. This time of the year, normally just in front of the caravan park at Leopold, in 4 to 5 meters of water, we were getting some nice fish. So Mima was there, she anchored, she tried, but at first she was not successful. She was casting all around the boat, but there was no King George whiting. After about 15 minutes, she grabbed the anchor and she decided to move. This time she was on the way to Kerr Lewis Bank. So here again, 4 to 5 meters depth, she anchors, and of course you have to try all the corners. And if you find one fish, guess what? You need to cast over and over in the same spot. Well, this was Mima's first solo King George whiting. Unfortunately, he was a little small, so she had to put him back.
Well, I did have to move a few times before I found them, but once I found them, I had one rod. It was the running rig, and it was cocktail of pilchard and pippies, and yeah, 10 nice fish I got.
Yeah, well, and quite a few she threw back as well. It is the key. For us, that cocktail always worked.
Yes.
Pilchard for us always was the key because acts like a burley. They come, they hit it, they like it, they come back for whatever's left over and they pick it up. It's not much to say, but let's watch the next video. As we mentioned, Mima was very happy to get her first solo King George whiting, but unfortunately it had to go back. It was definitely a size, but 28, 29, so just too small. There is no meat on them, so it's best to put them back. Not long after, she was on the second one, so that corner was promising. And this time, her first solo keeper. This fish was around 33 to 35 centimeters, much better than previous one, so of course this one was dinner. As there is no live well on this boat, so a bucket of water will just do the trick. Looking at Mima's face, she was rapt. She was really happy. Here is a short uncut segment. She casts, she makes sure that the line is tied, and have a look. Fish on. Preferred bite today was pipi and pilchard cocktail. Mima was using just a standard Tinganost rig or running rig or Western Port rig, whatever you want to call them. It's actually just a sinker with a drop shot, and then you got a leader about a meter. That's all. Long shank hook, and we use either 6 or 8. So size 6, size 8, depends. It's up to you. But yeah, it just works, and by changing. I would say the main trick is not to cast and put the rod in the holder, but cast, hold the rod in your hand, and just make sure the line is tight at all time. First nibble, don't act on it, but slowly pull back like you want to take it away from them. And the second nibble, that's it, they hooked. Then we were on the phone and this happened.
Up. That's a big one.
As you can see, in the middle of our conversation, she gets another good fish. So she was happy. She was over the moon, and yeah, so far she had more than half a dozen fish in a bucket. One thing Mima did forget, and that was to put the back camera on. Once you're on your own, there's quite a few things to do. She had Chiquita with her that she had to manage. She actually had to cut the bait, put the bait by herself on a hook this time, catch a fish, take the fish off the hook, put him in a bucket, so quite a few things to do.
Well, in the next video you're going to see, as soon as the tide stopped, I started getting banjos and all the other rubbish fish. So I packed up and went back home.
And she had to drive the boat on her own, hook the boat on her own, and drive off on her own. So let's watch that. At one stage, there was fish after fish. She started catching them left, right, and center. At one stage, a few boats came around her. I believe they were catching as well, which is good. And also, quite a few fish had to go back. They were way too small. Then, when the tide stopped, so there was no movement in the tide, banjos popped up. So Mima started catching some banjo sharks. After that, she decided, yep, I had enough, it's time to pack up. She put the fish in a scaler bag and obviously dragged it for about 10 minutes to scale them, and that was it. She was on her way to the boat ramp. there is another thing. At the boat ramp, she backed up the car and she drove the boat straight on the trailer. Now, it's a trick. Once you're driving on a trailer, you have to keep it in the gear, go at the front and try and put the safety on, take it out of the gear, then jump through the front and obviously hook it up properly, put the safety on, and then obviously drive off. So it's a procedure, but hey, she's done it. And then we had our friends Kaz and Sev and Ovi and Liliana, and of course we had a beautiful dinner.
Well, where is the fish? I can tell you, kingfish last week went absolutely crazy. Sharkman charter, gone fishing, casa charter, they were catching them like no tomorrow, and they were catching them in the rip and outside.
And I have to continue, obviously, Cape Schenck, then Turin Beach, there was heaps of kingfish around. They scan them, they pick them up, it's just amazing. But the key, live bait. You got live bait, they take off. So basically, on your normal line, put a sinker, like quite heavy sinker, and just a meter of leader, put a live bait, drop it down, bang, there was kingfish. Jigging, odd fish, very hard. But there is a happy story. The guys that we met in Portland that wanted to follow us to catch some tuna last week, Moses rang me up and he said, TB, this is what I'm planning to do. I never caught any big fish, kingfish, anything, no, nothing like that. We just got the boat. What do I do? So I gave him the mark to go to our spot at
Mud
Island and get himself some live bait. He only got 6 live bait, but that's plenty. He came back in the rip, and guess what? He got himself 90 plus centimeter kingfish. The guy was over the moon. So that is a happy story for you.
Well done.
Other than that, squid.
Well, squid, I can tell you it's between White Lady and the Green Stick at St. Leonard's. They finally showed up and in good and big numbers.
And Indented Heads, Prince George. So yeah, there is squid around because we struggled. We actually, for the last 3-4 months, there was an odd squid there and there. And, our friend Frank, the other day, bagged out straight away. A little bit of drifting, find one, you find 5. So if you catch one, just drift over the same spot because there'll be quite a few there. King George whiting, Mima just got him, 4.5 meters, 5 meters in front of Curl Lewis. You have to move a few times to find the spot, the patch. Make sure you fish the sand patch. It's hard to see, the water's murky.
It was murky and really as soon as I threw like 2 meters to another side, nothing.
Yeah,
it was only that one hole.
Spot, yeah. So you need to find the spot.
Yeah.
And once you get again one, you should be getting quite a few. Another thing, deep, 22 meters plus, our friend Mille sent us a picture with some beautiful snapper and a gummy shark. And good on you, mate. There is still some snapper around. Early mornings, late afternoons, they're actually on the best chew. Anywhere between Mount Martha, Melbourne Channel, Spoils, even around here, around the Old Channel, I don't believe that there is no big fish. There must be big fish, but the little pinkies here kill us.
And we also get sidetracked by Garfish.
Garfish and King George, yeah. So unfortunately, that's part of. Portland, tuna showed up. So we left 2 days later. Tuna showed up. It's just unfortunate. Matt Hunt got quite a nice bag of tuna. Schoolies, odd big fish that ripped them off as well. It is a good season. Lots of micro shark, lots of gummy shark around Portland, around here, outside, just in front of the rip. It's just magic. Western Port's been great. Brett Reed was catching heaps and heaps of King George whiting and an odd gummy and you name it. So guys, get out there. Well guys, people that came to Geelong Boat Show and say hi to us, kudos to you guys. People that actually purchase our t-shirts, our hoodies and everything else in our support. Thank you heaps.
Well, once again, thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, and we will see you next week.
I hope, I dream, I wish to catch a big fish, and I do it when I can. I'm a happy fisherman, and I do it when I can. I'm a happy fisherman.